As the famous saying goes, it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And for these MMA icons, that advice was taken at its most literal meaning. These are the greatest chins in the history of mixed martial arts. Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt is a man who is synonymous with whatever notions we hold about toughness and grit. The Super Samoan simply has that raw, reckless determination coursing through his veins. Take his instant classic battle with Antonio Bigfoot Silva, perhaps the single greatest display of metal the octagon has ever known. Heavyweights just shouldn't be able to absorb that amount of damage. And for Mark Hunt, who has perhaps the greatest heavyweight chin of all time, alongside Roy Nelson, he used that durability to thrill fans with some of the most exhilarating moments in the history of the sport. Look, being the king of the walk-off is all well and good, but when you're literally able to stand in front of your opponent, hands down, and invite them to punch you in the face, that's a level of faith in your chin that is not normal. Hunt may not have had the prettiest record, nor did he always manage to come away in victory. But even though he left the UFC without clinching promotional gold, Mark Hunt was a showman at his heart, and through his uncoachable physical attributes and overall fighting spirit, he endeared himself to a generation of fans worldwide. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Though his outstanding wrestling, top game, and fight IQ stand as the key ingredients behind Khabib Nurmagomedov's perfect, unblemished professional record, to understate the value of his iron chin would be underselling one of the Eagle's most valuable assets. Every fight starts on the feet, and while Khabib's striking, and in particular his defense, greatly improved as the years went on, a fighter with a lesser chin likely wouldn't have made it as far as this former lightweight champion. That's not to say Khabib was completely reliant on his chin. Quite the opposite, actually. But in his showdowns with the likes of Michael Johnson, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, and Justin Gaethje, Nurmagomedov ate hard shots like they were nothing. Even in the face of some of the hardest hitters the 155-pound division has ever known, Khabib's relentless forward pressure and his fearlessness in the face of whatever offense was coming back at him, those were the traits that allowed him to eventually bring the fight to the ground. Take his final outing, his UFC 254 destruction of Justin Gaethje. Khabib's forward movement in that opening round was aggressive, it was relentless, and in many ways, it could have been a bad idea when you consider just how powerful a puncher the highlight is. But Khabib's quote-unquote worst moments in the ring have been the few shots that his opponents have actually been able to land. And even in the face of hard hitters like Justin, Khabib's chin was always more than up to the task. An incredible grappler, yes, but the iron jaw of this Dagestan-born legend was truly the unsung hero of his reign. Max Holloway. Is there a more creative striker in MMA today than the great Max Holloway? Though not blessed with fight-ending power, Max's strengths lie in his cardio, his volume, and the wide range of weapons he has at his disposal. And as we all know, strong durability through excellent cardio often breeds quick recovery times. And though Max Holloway's cardio routine is among the best in the business, his ability to withstand damage is truly unbelievable. Over the course of his 24 fights in the UFC, Holloway has yet to be dropped. Sure, he's had his bell rung on a number of occasions, but this former featherweight champion always finds a way to recover, usually stealing away the fight's momentum while he's at it. Hawaiian fighters are simply built differently, folks, and even though Holloway has been in there with a who's who of featherweight legends, even the most accurate and powerful of strikers, guys like Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, Jeremy Stevens, Dustin Poirier, and more, none of them have been able to truly put Max in danger of being finished. And for a guy who plies his trade almost exclusively in the striking department, that is a testament to his legendary ability to take a punch. Jon Jones. Considering that most fighters don't even land clean shots on Jon Jones, it would be easy to assume there's nothing overly spectacular about his chin. But in those matchups that saw the longtime 205-pound champ forced to dig deep, those fights that saw him eat shots, the Reyes bout, his classic with Alexander Gustafsson, even his rematch with Daniel Cormier. In these fights, along with a few stray shots here and there in other matchups, Jon Jones has shown himself to have a ridiculous chin. Not that he needs another incredible physical trait to go along with his perfect frame for the weight class and his gargantuan reach. It's just incredible to think that in 28 fights, he has barely been hurt or rocked. And within those 28 fights, 22 of them were within the UFC, and 15 were title fights. Jon Jones has been fighting the best of the best for over a decade. And where most champs have their stumbles, even his most determined of critics can only say that Jon Jones might have narrowly lost a fight or two on the scorecards. And that's if they were being really harsh. Yoel Romero. Have you ever seen Yoel Romero get kicked in the head? Seriously, it generally looks like it damaged the kicker more than it hurt him. As far as the sport of mixed martial arts is concerned, there are great athletes, there are freaks of nature, and then there's Yoel Romero. And when you consider the soldier of God's power, his speed, and his explosiveness, it only makes sense that the man can also take a punch better than 99% of his contemporaries. Whether he was walking through Robert Whittaker's trademark head kicks, or taking less than a second to recover from a clean shot from Paulo Costa, Romero just takes shots differently. If we had to guess, the main ingredient in Yoel's formidable chin is likely the fact that he barely has a neck, instead bringing a pair of ridiculously thick trap muscles with him into the octagon. Raised within the Cuban wrestling program and plying his trade as an elite tier athlete for over 2.5 decades, Yoel Romero's body type deserves to be listed within a category of its own. He could well still be fighting by the time he's 50, and if his run within the top tier of MMA is anything to go by, he'll still be eating shots like they're nothing. Nate Diaz. Every time Nate Diaz fights these days, the question never changes. Will this be the guy who finally cracks his seemingly indestructible chin? And in reality, though Nate has lost by way of brutal TKO to Josh Thompson in the past, his chin has since performed one of the all-time great career comebacks, hardening into the proverbial Fort Knox. Yes, Diaz does get hit, and sometimes he even gets dropped. But whether he's taking on the hardest punchers at 155 pounds or testing the welterweight waters, Nate's ability to recover from multiple fight-ending blows makes him one of the most durable fighters to ever lace up gloves. Even his recent outing against Leon Edwards saw him absorb a 24-minute beatdown from his opponent, as the technical and overall power difference between the two was made as clear as day. However, in that final minute, after his cardio and iron chin kept Edwards at bay, one fight-altering shot saw Diaz dramatically steal the fight's momentum, something that almost won him the bout in its dying seconds. The lesson, when it comes to Nate Diaz, he's likely going to be in your face from the first minute to the last. So be prepared for a swim in the deepest of waters. Roy Nelson. Seriously? Roy Nelson's gotta be hiding something in that beard of his. As one of the hardest hitters the sport of mixed martial arts has ever known, this famously large-framed Ultimate Fighter winner can also take a shot like few others. Fighting in the heavyweight division brings a level of risk that the other weight classes simply cannot compete with. And though this can also be seen in the sport of boxing, those 4-ounce gloves leave little room for error once the octagon doors close. And for Roy Nelson, when he's not shutting lights out with his legendary overhand right, his ability to take a punch is simply unparalleled. Though his chin was eventually cracked by Mark Hunt during his UFC run, Nelson's ability to take hard shots from some of the most heavy-handed customers in the sport's history has made him a shoo-in for this list. It should also be noted that his, shall we say, robust figure also makes him an excellent handler of body shots. Big Country might not have made his way to the UFC belt, but this hard-hitting, punch-absorbing, beard-sporting gentleman was an instant success with the fans, becoming an icon of his era. Dan Henderson. Some people just look like they're built to take a punch. And in the case of the legend that is Dan Henderson, his legendary H-bomb of a right hand was only half the reason behind his great successes. To be fair to Hendo, his background as a Greco-Roman Olympian obviously didn't hurt too much either, making him a standout athlete within both the middleweight and light heavyweight divisions during his prime. And up until his streak was broken by the TRT-riddled Vitor Belfort in 2013, cracking Henderson's chin seemed like something of an impossibility. Whether it was his conditioning, his upper body makeup, or just some God-given knack for absorbing punishment, Henderson's chin was already the stuff of legend by the time he finally reached the UFC. While his longevity carried him well into his 40s before his eventual retirement, out of his 17 career losses, only 3 of them came by strikes, which, while certainly not proof of his chin's enduring qualities, still says a lot about its lasting power, even during his days fighting as a 46-year-old. A true legend of the sport, and a chin that can be held up there with the best of them.